Good morning. Today is the 12th day of Nisan and the 3rd of April. And we're reading the second reading of Shemini. And we're going to tie it also into Passover. The verses we're going to look at is what happened at the end of the 8th day. This parsha, this portion is called Shemini because what it means is the 8th day. So if you remember, on the 23rd of Adar, they started constructing the tabernacle, and every day they would take it apart and put it together again and take it apart until the 29th of Adar. So that was 7 days. Those 7 days, those 7 days are known as the 7 days of Miluim. Miluim meaning that they were the inauguration of the tabernacle and of the priests. What happened on the 8th day? The 8th day was already the first day of Nisan, was Chodesh Nisan. And on that day, there was already from that day on, it started the regular course of service in the tabernacle. Except that something strange happened. The day started, and we already read at the end of last week's parsha how Moshe Rabbeinu dressed Aaron and his sons, and he got them ready for the service, basically. Until that time, it was Moshe Rabbeinu who was serving as the high priest. Then the first day of Nisan came, and it was time to switch and to give Aaron his position as the high priest. Now, the sign for it was going to be, and this is what they were waiting for. You have to understand there was tremendous anticipation, because they were waiting for this for all the months of the winter in which they had constructed the tabernacle. They had constructed it since Yom Kippur, all the way to Kafeh of Kislev. So for about 3 months, they were constructing it, were building it, and then it lay dormant in pieces, sort of like in wraps, for 3 months until God said, now's the time to begin to construct it, till the 23rd of Adar. And so they've been waiting for 6 months, and now these 7 days of inauguration of the priests, and they were waiting for something in particular to happen. What did they want to see? They wanted to see that God had blessed their handiwork. How could they see that God had blessed their handiwork? It would come in the sign of the fire coming down from heaven. Meaning that not only would they bring fire, man-made fire, to the altar, to the external altar, and it would consume the sacrifices, the daily sacrifices, but there would be a fire that would come down from heaven. So on that day, they waited for the fire to come down, and it didn't. And this really threw them off. They didn't know exactly what to do, because nothing's. It seems like they've done a tremendous amount of hard work, and in the end, it doesn't look like there's going to be any kind of sign from God that their work has been accepted. So let me read the verses. Moses and Aaron, we're in chapter 9, verse 23. Moses and Aaron then went inside the tent of meeting, into the tabernacle. When they came out, they blessed the people, and the presence of God appeared to all the people. And how was that? It says, fire came forth from before God and consumed the burnt offering and the fat parts on the altar, and all the people saw and shouted and fell on their faces. That was the sign that they were waiting for. So what caused this to happen? Let's read Rashi. Rashi says like this. Let me find the English translation. Rashi asks like this: what does it mean that Moses and Aaron then went inside the tent of meeting? He asks, where did they now, or why did they now enter the tabernacle? What was the purpose of entering? So he says, I found a saying from the sages that Moses entered with Aaron to instruct him regarding the incense ceremony. What was the incense ceremony? Every day, an amount of incense was taken into the tabernacle, and it was placed on the golden altar. And there it was burnt, and it would fill the house with a certain scent. So Moses now had to instruct Aaron about how to do this, how to actually perform the ceremony. Simple question arises. They've been doing this for 7 days. Why does Moses have to teach him now on the 8th day? The simple answer is that they didn't do it for 7 days. The reason they didn't do it for 7 days, the first 7 days, like we said, they weren't the regular order of service at the tabernacle. They were only the inauguration of the priests. And so during those 7 days, they didn't bring the incense offering. This was the first day. The day of Nisan was the first time that the incense offering was offered. Then Rashi continues and says, another explanation is, why did they go in? When Aaron perceived that all the sacrifices had been offered and all the rites performed, and yet the divine presence had not descended, as we said, there was no sign. Since the heavenly fire had not fallen to consume the sacrifice, he was uneasy in mind and said, I feel certain that the Holy Blessed One, meaning God, is angry with me. What is he angry with Aaron about? So we know that this was a very big move. Aaron was the one who was responsible for the golden calf. It's true that he, of course, would never initiate something like that. But Aaron was the one who, in his effort to delay them, to delay the people, he formed and fashioned the golden calf. And he was the one who said at the end, this is your God, Israel, who has taken you out of Egypt. Of course, he didn't mean that it was an idol that there should be worship. What he meant was exactly what they had asked for. They asked for someone instead, or something instead of Moses, that would serve as the go-between between them and God. And Aaron was complicit. Now, it's true that Aaron was complicit because of his fear. Why was he afraid? Because he saw that they had already killed his nephew, who was not willing to collaborate with them. And the nephew, his name was Hur. He was killed by this mob. So Aaron was very much afraid. Because of that, Aaron needed to be atoned for. And it was a very big deal that someone who had been complicit in the end in creating the golden calf was now going to become the high priest. It's not something that could be taken lightly at all. How could someone who was involved in this worst sin they had, probably in the history of the Jewish people, at least the sin as far as towards God, unfortunately, when it comes to our relationship with one another, we probably top that sin a number of times already. But when it comes to a relationship with God, that was probably the worst sin. So how can this person, Aaron, become the advocate for the entire Jewish people and actually for the entire world and serve as a high priest? So says Rashi here, the Medrash says that Aaron felt that God was angry at everyone because of him. And therefore, he was not satisfied with the fact that Aaron was now going to be the high priest. In a moment, we'll return to this, but let's finish the Rashi. So what did he say? He therefore said to Moses, I'm returning to Rashi, my brother Moses, do you act thus with me? You know that I have entered into the matter at your bidding, and yet I have been put to shame. He says, is this what you're doing to me? You're now making me the high priest. You're putting me to shame because I don't deserve this role. I can't take this role because I have to atone first. Moses once entered the tent with him, and they offered prayer and the Shemini, the divine presence, descended toward Israel. So he says the reason that they went into the tabernacle, into the sanctuary, was in order to pray. And this is a tremendous novelty, since when you have to go into the tabernacle to pray, you can pray anywhere. And certainly when the tabernacle is right near you, you can pray in front of it. But because of that prayer, the divine presence did come down. And this requires a lot of contemplation. What exactly was this prayer? And why did it affect the coming down of the divine presence? So the first thing we want to do is we want to go back to what we just said about Aaron having been afraid and therefore committing or being complicit in the sin of the golden calf. In truth, fear is what causes people to sin more than anything else. Especially, we have a tradition that before the Baal Shem Tov's father passed away, he gave his son a will, like an instruction how to behave. And he said, "My son, fear nothing but God and love every Jew regardless of his status, and regardless of his state." Usually when this will is interpreted, it seems like it has two parts to it. Fear nothing but God. And then it also says that you should be, and you should also love every Jew. But the truth is that they depend on one another. A person cannot love every Jew if he has fear of anything but God. It's a very deep statement. I don't know if we've talked about it before. I don't remember if we mentioned it. But what is it saying? It's saying that unless you are completely confident that God is running the world, there are 100 different reasons why you might be afraid to love someone, to love a Jew. 100 different reasons. Because you're always afraid that if I do this, if I do that, what will happen? What will he do to me? What will he do? There's all these fears in the back of our head. The truth is, you really cannot serve God. I'm not talking now about serving God himself and praying and everything that has to do with that. But in a relationship with one another, the only way that a person can truly have love and really care for others is if he's not afraid of anything but God, meaning that he believes and he fully trusts in the fact that everything that happens to us is because God is the only force that there is. Once you understand that point, then you can come to love everyone else. And that was exactly what Aaron had to get over. That was his atonement. In other words, he was afraid to assume the role of the high priest because the high priest is considered the great lover of the Jewish people. As we know about Aaron, that it says that he's Ohev Shalom ve'Rodev Shalom, that he loves peace and he pursues peace. But what kind of peace? Peace between people. To be able to assume that role, to be able to be the advocate in the tabernacle, to be able to be the one who leads the services, or to be the one who leads the Seder table, or whatever it is, a person has to feel that they have no fear of anyone else but God, and then they can come to a state of true love of their fellow people. We don't have any more time today. Tomorrow, I'll try to build it in also. I want to explain what it means that the divine presence suddenly appeared and why it had to do with putting people, why did they have to wait on edge until it happened? Why was it not just a natural progression that they did everything they did? Now God should do his part. What's going on there? This is very pertinent to our times, because in our times we also feel in many ways that we've been through so much. We've done everything we can. We even have a statement from the Lubavitcher Rebbe who said, we've already done tshuva, we've already done everything that needs to happen. Why doesn't God appear yet? Why do we not see the Mashiach? Why do we not see the redemption? Especially now as we come up to base of these questions become more pressing. As it says, the sages say, that they were redeemed in Nisan, they will also be redeemed in the future in Nisan. So this is coming up, and the question lingers, why is it that we don't see the complete redemption now, after we've done already everything that needs to be done? So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that tomorrow.